This is KVUE News Daybreak.
To this day, I still leave lights on for him. I still look for him to come home. I need to get this piece of justice and this closure for him.
A mother's desperate plea to find the driver who killed her teenage son. The message she wants that person to hear.
Secretary Tillerson gears up for a day of tough talks with Russian leaders. I'm Maggie Ruley, and we'll have the latest coming up.
Good morning to you, and thank you for joining us for KVUE News Daybreak at 4:30. I'm Brian Mays. Let's begin with a look at what we're tracking for this Wednesday with meteorologist Erica Lopez. Good morning, Erica.
Good morning, Brian. Well, Wednesday's going to be completely different from Tuesday. The stalled out front that brought in a lot of heavy rain for our viewing area now well to the south of us. No more rain associated with it, but what we do have are some cooler temperatures this morning heading out the door. Temperatures in the lower 60s. ABIA 63 degrees, 62 in Camp Mabry. Also dew points much drier. Here's a look at your temperature change, just how much cooler it is than where we were yesterday. We're talking an 8-degree cool down for the Austin metro area, 12 degrees cooler for Giddings, and about 4 degrees cooler across the hill country. Patchy fog could be an issue this morning. We have a lot of low-level moisture still and very calm winds that could cause some radiational cooling, which will help enhance our dense fog conditions. Georgetown visibility currently at 8 miles, but I'll keep you guys updated if that visibility does lessen throughout this morning. I think, Brian, that's going to be our main concern this morning.
We'll watch for that fog. Thanks, Eric. Operations back to normal today at Texas State University. This after classes were canceled for a few hours yesterday because of this, all the rainfall. University officials decided to cancel class after heavy rains fell on campus. The San Marcos River, well above its banks at Sewell Park, where some park structures were covered with water. Some entered the students' dorms, in fact. One student says she had about an inch of water at her dorm in Bates Hall.
I don't know who, but somebody propped open one of the doors by the emergency exits, and because of that, a lot of the rain started coming in, and it started soaking up on the ground, on the floor, and then started flooding a little bit, and it was really, really crazy.
That's actually in Butler Hall there on campus at Texas State. Meanwhile, officials say they will not have the full scope of any other flood damage, possibly until later this morning after that water recedes. A Kyle mother making a desperate plea 3 months after her 15-year-old son was killed in a hit-and-run in Niederwald. In December, a truck hit Michael Mintz while he was walking with friends down FM 2001 near State Highway 21. Witnesses say the driver of a red Dodge truck took off after crashing into Michael. 3 months later, no arrests have been made, and the Department of Public Safety is not reporting any leads.
As a parent, your job is to protect your child, and I couldn't do anything for him.
DPS says the truck had damage to the passenger side fog light, side mirror, and the passenger side front bumper. There's a $2,000 reward for any information leading to an arrest. If you know anything, call Crime Stoppers. Later today, lawmakers will take a final vote on a bill that would make it easier to track DNA samples in cases involving survivors of sexual assault. On Tuesday, the House approved a bill filed by State Representative Donna Howard to create a statewide electronic database to track rape kits. Howard was prompted to file House Bill 281 after talking with assault survivors and realizing there's no way to see where kits are in the testing process. She says if passed, the bill will help provide a more efficient and effective way, bringing justice to men and women.
The tracking system is a way to make sure that we keep up with that forensic evidence, make sure it gets to where it needs to go in a timely fashion, and that should help, for one thing, to address the backlog, but also allow survivors access codes so that they can know where their forensic evidence is in that process.
Howard says tracking the kits will be similar to tracking a package. The system will also tie into the national database, which will let police know if they're dealing with a repeat offender. One of the first integrated golf courses in Austin and in the entire South will come under new ownership soon. It'll soon have that to help preserve its historic nature. Yesterday, the state Senate approved a measure to preserve Lyons Municipal Golf Course, also known as MUNI, here in Austin, by transferring ownership from the University of Texas to Texas Parks and Wildlife. The university's considered selling the land or increasing the rent for the city to continue to lease it for around $6 million a year, but it's not likely that City Council will go along with those high fees. The bill is now headed to the House. Lawmakers looking over a bill which aims to require more training for police officers across the state, including how they interact with people who have mental illness. This comes after an arrest left one person dead in 2015. This woman, 28-year-old Sandra Bland, committed suicide at a jail northwest of Houston just 3 days after being arrested during a traffic stop. Prior to her death, Bland got into an altercation with former DPS Trooper Brian Encina. During that stop, Encina is facing a misdemeanor perjury charge stemming from the arrest, but not her death. Now, Bland's mother calling on lawmakers to pass the Sandra Bland Act to help reform the criminal justice system.
Allow me to be able to stand with you and say, we may change. This is not about anti-police. I have never said that, and I'm saying it for the record today. I don't hate police. I hate the fact that we do not understand that this has been going on for too long.
The bill also bans pretext traffic stops and wouldn't allow officers to arrest people for offenses that aren't punishable by jail time, such as traffic violations. The bill is currently pending in committee. The pickup truck driver who hit a church bus last month on prescription medication and texting, before the crash. That's according to a just released affidavit. Witnesses say 20-year-old Jack Young had been driving erratically before he hit the bus. The accident outside of San Antonio killed 13 people. The affidavit also indicates Young could face manslaughter charges once his phone records are analyzed. Mothers Against Drunk Driving responding to the news this morning, saying they intend to do everything they can to ensure that the alleged criminal is held accountable to the fullest extent of the law for this violent and 100% preventable crime. That is a quote from Mothers Against Drunk Driving. The White House and Russian government continuing to exchange heated charges over last week's poison gas attack in Syria. This comes as Secretary of State Rex Tillerson begins a day of meetings in Moscow, demanding that Russia withdraw support for the Syrian government. But that's not the only issue White House officials are dealing with. ABC's Maggie Ruley explains how Press Secretary Sean Spicer is now facing backlash for his comments on the situation.
The U.S. puts Moscow on notice, just as Secretary of State Rex Tillerson set to begin a tense day of meetings with Russia's foreign minister. The White House accusing the Kremlin of engaging in a full-scale and deliberate cover-up of that deadly Syrian chemical weapons attack, ordered by Syrian President Bashar al-Assad on his own people.
Frankly, Putin is backing a person that's truly an evil person. And I think it's very bad for Russia. I think it's very bad for mankind.
On Fox News, President Trump demands Russia withdraw their support from the Syrian regime. But Russian President Vladimir Putin continues to deny that the Assad government was behind the attack. The future of U.S. involvement in Syria remains uncertain. While Ambassador to the UN Nikki Haley has said the U.S. is prepared to do more, President Trump clearly states,
we're not going into Syria.
Not providing any clarity, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer igniting a firestorm after he suggested that not only is Syria's Bashar al-Assad worse than Adolf Hitler, but that Hitler did not use chemical weapons during World War II.
You had someone as despicable as Hitler who didn't even sink to using chemical weapons.
Advocacy groups are calling for him to resign. Spicer has since apologized for his comments. Secretary Tillerson says he's open to meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The two have a long-standing relationship, and Putin even once awarded him with the Order of Friendship. But today, that friendship is being put to the test. Maggie Ruley, ABC News, Washington.
New this morning, North Korea warning of a potential nuclear strike against the United States. That threat comes as the USS Carl Vinson aircraft carrier moves into the seas off Korea. In a new interview, President Donald Trump confirming the United States is sending what he calls an armada. He wouldn't go into any specifics, but says North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un, is doing the wrong thing. Back in Texas, a man recovering today after crews found him clinging to a tree in raging floodwaters. This happened yesterday in Temple. The man trying to drive through high water when his truck was swept off the road. He is expected to be okay. Turn around, don't drown. We say it every time it rains, but every time it rains, somebody drives through those low water crossings. Let's get a check of our forecast now with Erica.
That's right. Unfortunately, it does always still happen. Take a look at just how much rain, when we put it into perspective throughout the Lone Star State, the same system, it was areas such as Temple and viewing area just to the north of us where they got hammered with over a foot of rain in isolated spots. As for our region here, our big concern yesterday was the San Marcos area. We had our own flooding concerns there also. Radar indicated over half a foot of rain in that region. So a completely different forecast in store for us today. Still keeping in about a 10% chance of some rain shower activity for the beginning portion of your day. And then mostly cloudy afternoon is in store. We have a lot of low level moisture though that will be in our region. So that's going to issue some patchy fog concerns this morning. The good news is that we have cooler temperatures in your forecast for today. Our daytime high is expected to be at about 80 degrees this afternoon, but I think the majority of us will stay in the 70s. Keep in mind it's a mostly cloudy afternoon in store for us. I have plans of some rain shower activity for our weekend though, so I'll chat about that in the full forecast. Brian, back to you.
Erica, thank you. A source of fumes in an airplane that landed at ABIA yesterday still unknown. According to our partners at the Statesman, a United flight from Houston to Austin reported an emergency shortly after takeoff. The pilot reported fumes in the cockpit. Thankfully, the plane was able to safely land at ABIA. No one required any medical attention. Today, the debt racked up by hundreds of Austin students who couldn't pay for their school lunches has been wiped away, and it's all thanks to hundreds of people across the Austin area. Earlier this week, an article from our partners over at the Statesman detailed how AISD pays about $350,000 a year for school lunches to students who can't afford it. The district launched a crowdfund campaign to help keep these kids fed. Over 350 people have donated over $16,000. If you'd like to help out and donate to this cause, we have a link for you set up on our website. That's KVUE.com. A massage parlor busted in Austin for operating a very different kind of business, how their plumbing issues tipped off police. And Texans using their hunting skills for a good cause, how they're helping end hunger in San Antonio.